Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another day at Dubs Nation. It's Thursday and the batshit crazy year of 2020. Real quick, I'm trying to grow the channel, so please subscribe. And what is actually more important, far more important to me, is the message, getting the message out, because the liberal and left Democrats flood the airwaves and the internet with their message daily for years now. And I think it's time that we flood it with ours. So please like, share, especially my first video. The message to Trump and Republicans is telling our president to please stick to policy and for Republicans to back him up. Okay, so last night was night 3 of the RNC, and I think at this point it is safe to say the RNC is pissed on the DNC. Everything from production value to the ads cut to the speakers, the messaging, all better. The viewership has been excellent. I think last night was a little bit lower than night 1 and night 2. It's to be expected on the middle of the week, but nonetheless, it was still good. Every night has had its own theme. Last night was, I believe, Heroes theme. It started off, we had speakers included the former acting director of national intelligence, who was a personal favorite of mine. He was a true Trump ally in the respect that he was working hard to stop the attacks, the unprecedented attacks from the left, and trying to bring out the corruption that took place during the Russia probe and the FISA process and the Obamagate, the whole 9 yards. So he has been a true Trump ally and a personal favorite of mine, and I hope we get to see him in a better position and move up the ladder as far anywhere. Everywhere he's been great. There was civil rights activist Clarence Henderson, Republican congressional nominee Burgess Owens of Utah, Lara Trump. She was good. This one was very good. Republican congressional nominee Madison Caldwell of North Carolina. That is the kid that's he's young, 25. He's in a wheelchair, and he is a natural-born leader. You can tell that his adversity that he overcame from his accident truly got him to that point too. He gave a great uplifting speech, a unifying speech, but also portrayed the radicalism of the left. And at the end of the speech, he actually stood up, despite being paralyzed from the waist down. He stood up for the country, symbolizing he's standing up for our values and our Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem, etc., as opposed to kneeling. We also had Lou Holtz give a good speech. Kellyanne Conway, it was good to see her give a speech, and she has been taking a lot of flack lately, and she's been taking a lot of flack since day one, and she deserves all the credit in the world for really turning the Trump campaign around back in 2016 when it was in a little bit of disarray, jumping from campaign manager to campaign manager. You would think the left, being so high on independent, strong women in positions of power, would not attack people like her, women like her, as viciously as they did her, and others like Sarah Sanders, who just did a phenomenal job. And just because they disagree with them politically, they mean nothing. Their achievements mean nothing. But others who do far less are, lauded and applauded. She's having family problems because her husband has been acting like a douchebag, and apparently her daughter is having some problems too. Family problems are nothing to laugh at, and hopefully everything works out for her. Kayleigh McEnany, Dan Crenshaw is always phenomenal. Obviously, he's always excellent when he speaks. And Kristi Noem of South Dakota, and Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, and his wife. So, what I want to go through today is something that everybody has kind of forgotten about and kind of glossed over with all the insanity happening, is the Rayshard Brooks shooting in Atlanta. If everybody remembers, now just guys, stick with me because I want to go through this and real quick, and then I want to give some suggestions about what police and policing in the country can do to help themselves. And then I'm going to tell a personal story that is quite unbelievable, but hand to God, it is 100% true, and it always gets some pretty crazy reactions. So stick with me till the end. I'm going to get you that story. I just want to go through this shooting real quick so we can refresh everybody's memory. Now, the police got a call, and it went for a guy that had fallen asleep in a Wendy's drive-through. They got there. He was drunk. 40 minutes of conversation ensued where they were being polite and cordial and professional. And once they found out that once they came to the conclusion he was over the legal limit and drunk, they attempted to place him under arrest. He violently fought them and threw them both down and stole one of their tasers and proceeded to run away and then shoot the taser at them. Now, a taser is a lethal weapon, okay? Their baton is a lethal weapon the police carry. It's a metal pipe, okay? So there is lethal weapon. Police are trained to use it in a less than lethal manner. That is the whole point. If you were to shoot somebody with a taser and hold it down for X amount of minutes, it would kill them. If you would crack somebody in the head with that baton, which is a steel pipe, it would kill them. So police are trained to use that in a less than lethal way. The most important thing with the taser is that it can incapacitate whoever it hits. Now, once you incapacitate a police officer, then you can easily take their weapon. Now, if that sounds a little far-fetched to you, then you clearly don't follow police incidents, because that exact situation has happened in the past, and similar situations to it where an incapacitated officer's weapon was taken from him and used on him has happened many, many times. Much of police policy and procedure is based on former events where officers were killed in the line of duty. So, real quick, we're just going to watch the video that shows Rayshard running away right there after the fight. He turns back, fires the taser at the officers, and that's where the shooting happens. Now, for that, I argued with people for days and days on social media about this. The one argument was that, well, why didn't they just let him go? Why didn't they just let him walk home? Well, you can't do that. Okay, he's drunk. He's drunk. If he gets into a car and drives and then kills somebody, the police that were in contact with him are liable. It happens all the time. That is why we have such strict DUI laws in this country. Anybody that's ever been arrested for a DUI I wasn't given that courtesy. It would say I wasn't given that courtesy. Why does he's got to be let go now? Or this one person's got to be let go, and we have to do that because there might be a chance that that guy is going to act violent towards the cops, so the cops just have to let him go? No. Number two, the next one that they were pushing was that, well, why did they have to shoot him? The taser is just a taser. So what? Well, the DA that charged this officer with murder in this case just charged other officers with assault with a deadly weapon when they tased suspects a week before that. So he went from a taser being a deadly weapon in a police officer's hands, but not a deadly weapon in a civilian's hands when they steal one. Sorry. The next one that I got, well, why didn't they just let him continue running away after he broke free from the fight? Come on, just let him go. No, you idiots. They cannot let him run away. They are liable. What does he have in his hand? A what? A deadly weapon. Taser is a deadly weapon. So now they cannot just let a drunk man, again, who can get into a car and drive and kill somebody, now that also has their weapon, to just run free and hope that he doesn't hurt anybody by the time they catch back up with him or whatever. Okay? Last argument I got. Why did they shoot him in the back? They can't shoot him in the back. It's not allowed. It's never allowed. That's not right. No, jackasses. It is right. What do you think? Do you honestly think that if a bad guy just turns his back to cops and then puts the gun behind his head and starts shooting at them, the cops just have to throw their hands up and go, oh, geez, he knows the trick. Damn, he knows the trick. I can't shoot him in the back, and he's walking back, just backpedal at the cops and it's okay? No, that's not how it works. Here's a little visual aid for the people that can't comprehend this, okay? Right here, the person's back is facing you, but the weapon is pointed at you, okay? You can shoot this person because the threat is facing you. It doesn't matter what direction their torso is facing in, okay? If the threat is facing you and he's actively shooting at you, you can shoot them. Now replace this with another deadly weapon that is a taser. There you go. So all this led to, like I said, the DA in Atlanta to charge Officerrolfe with 11 different charges, 11 different crimes. And they also fired. So this pretty recently, the officers sued the city over the firing and being charged. Rolfe, who was white, was fired from the Atlanta police force on June 13th, the day after Brooks' death, a day after the death, with no investigation, in a killing that further escalated racial tensions and discussions on police treatment of black Americans. The same day of Rolfe's lawsuit was filed, prosecutors asked the court to revoke the former officer's $500,000 bond, alleging he had traveled to Florida without permission. Rolfe faces 11 charges, including felony murder for defending himself against a weapon, a deadly weapon. This is insane that we are at this point. And not to mention, the guy was fired and charged within like 2 days. I thought that was the whole reason why the riots were taking place, because they want to see justice. Even though justice is not done here, it's all BS. It's all BS. Lastly, Paul Howard, the DA that charged these officers, who handled the Ray Lewis murders, Atlanta school cheating scandal, and the police officer's killing of Rayshard Brooks during his lengthy tenure, has been ousted as Fulton County's top prosecutor. So the prosecutor there was in a highly contested runoff with an opponent during that shooting incident. So it was very clear that he charged these cops. These cops were just a means to an end for him. He charged them with murder to win his election, and it still didn't work. So he was ousted. Okay. So what can officers do to help themselves at least a little bit in these crazy, crazy times? Now, I think every officer needs to have extensive defensive tactics training. Specifically martial arts, even more specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or some sort of grappling art. Okay, if anybody watches MMA, they know that that is the most proficient and the most effective means of fighting. It's the most effective means of defending yourself. It's not the end-all be-all, obviously, but I have trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 7 years. And the techniques that you learn and the experience you gain from live sparring, live fighting with other people during training increases your confidence 100-fold. I mean, 100-fold. Sometimes you can see when officers are in an altercation in these videos, you can tell they've never been punched in the face before, let alone been in any kind of fight. And it's sad because I believe that every officer should. And it can't just be a quick, seminar or a couple weeks of training. It has to be consistent. It has to be so their muscle memory can perform that in an instant. So it has to be a couple training a few times a week for at least a year. Truthfully, that's what should be done. And what they can do to help out is extend the police academy maybe by 3 months. Okay, where the officer goes to their on-the-job training, maybe 2 or 3 days out of the week for the last 3 months of the academy, and then they return to the academy for more defensive tactics training those other 2 days. So they're knocking out their field training, and they're getting more defensive tactics training in that last 3 months, which those 3 months approximately that they're on the job, they would be doing their field training anyway. Okay, so one of the techniques that is under scrutiny, which shouldn't be, it should be going the opposite direction, is a chokehold. Chokeholds should not be banned. They should be learned to be performed properly. If a chokehold is performed properly with the correct technique, it could be the best weapon in an officer's arsenal. You would not have to go to your mechanical use of force or your chemical use of force nearly as much. You could subdue somebody with zero physical damage, handcuff them while they're unconscious, and when they wake back up, they will be none the wiser. Now, of course, that's in a perfect world. There's always going to be other factors that are involved, but the basic concept is there. It is. Trust me, it can be and it will be useful, but it needs to be they need to be trained and certified for it, and be able to do it properly. If you do that technique just like any other technique or anything else improperly, it can be dangerous, of course. But this is not a stranglehold where you crush the windpipe. It is a carotid blood choke that stops the blood flow from the brain, from the heart to the brain momentarily, so that the person goes unconscious, and then once you release, the blood goes back to the brain, and then they're okay. They wake right back up. Steven Crowder actually did a little example of this for us a little while back to one of his associates, and I'm just going to play that real quick.
So, Wade, what I want to do is start applying it, and I'm going to apply it. So my goal is not to make you go unconscious, but if it doesn't hurt, you don't have to tap, because it's not going to be painful if you do go out. So I just want to get rid of the zipper here. Now, what I am going to do is...
Once this is over, then we're going to get into my story, which directly relates to this.
Do me a favor, let's point your throat so it's right in the nook of my elbow.
So turn to the right.
There you go.
Yeah, right there.
Okay. Just for right now. Now, what I'm going to do is slowly apply some pressure, and I want you to tell me if you can breathe. Okay? Now, can you breathe?
Yep.
Okay, now can you breathe?
A little bit less, yeah.
You're going to breathe. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the pressure to the point that you could go unconscious, and you can tap, but I want you to tell me if it's because you can't breathe. Okay?
Yeah, tap his foot if you need to go out.
Yeah.
All right, he's out.
Whoa. You okay?
He's back in.
Good? Right here. Want to raise his feet up? Just raise his feet up. This is what we do. So we get some. You good?
Blood flow back. Yeah.
Do you know that you went unconscious?
Makes sense.
Hey, look, within seconds he's laughing, he's fine. He didn't even realize what happened. A lot of times people that go unconscious actually have a nice little dream too. So that technique could be great in an officer's arsenal. Now, if there's any cops watching, listen, I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but just because this type of thing is not mandatory right now, I think you should try it, because of the current climate that's happening right now. If there's anything that can stop you from having to pull your weapon needlessly, or obviously if there's a weapon and another weapon involved, you know what you're doing, but something like this could really benefit. Now, how did this pertain to me? I actually had to perform this technique myself, but it wasn't on a person. About 7 years ago, I was walking my dog. He's a pit lab mix. He's about 50 pounds. He's not very big. He's got a little lab head and a big pit bull body. He's kind of goofy looking. So we were walking, down the street, and these two older ladies were walking their dog, who was a pit bull, full-bred pit, and he was a big boy. He wasn't overly, massive, but I'd say he's 70, 75 pounds maybe. And I could tell, we were walking towards each other, and I could tell by the way the two of them were looking at one another that they were not happy that they were near each other. And the two women asked if their dog could smell mine, and I said, no, please no. And as soon as I can get the words out of my mouth, their dog had broken the O-ring on their collar and jumped on top of us, on top of my dog, and they were now in like a cartoon style smoke fight. All three of us were rolling around on the ground, and I was trying to keep them separated. And the two women, they were in their later years, and they couldn't do much to help. Now, if anybody's ever seen a dog fight, or if anybody's been involved in a dog fight, dogs have an incredible strength that they do not show to you until they are in that fighting red zone moment. And even with my size and strength, I could not keep them apart, and they were able to get on top of each other. And to make a long story short, this pit bull grabbed onto my dog's neck, and I could not get him off. And my dog started screaming and yelping, and it was pretty terrible. It was so terrible, in fact, that the neighbors called all the town's police, and all of them came. So here I am trying to break them up, and I'm putting myself in between their bites, and I'm getting bit and I'm getting scratched. It's a bloody mess. And finally, like I said, he grabbed my dog by the neck, and he is shaking and he will not let go. And I'm trying everything I can now to get him to let go. I stupidly tried to pry his mouth open, and he almost took my fingertips off. I then was hitting him, and he didn't even affect him. I then, out of desperation, because I saw my dog was not doing well at that moment, tried to put my finger actually in his eye, and I was just trying to do whatever I could to make him let go. And at that point, the instinct took over, because I had been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for that point many years, at least 4 to 5 years, and I actually jumped on top of this dog's back like he was a horse, and I proceeded to put him in a rear naked choke, just like you saw Steven Crowder do. Hand to God, this is 100% true. So I put him in a rear naked choke, and I just squeezed with all my strength, and I squeezed and I squeezed, and finally I heard his breathing get more labored, and he let go. Now, a neighbor of mine was able to pull my dog away, and now I'm realizing that I have a dog right next to my face that was just going berserk. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. So I just kept holding it. And finally, he went to sleep. He went unconscious. It took much longer than it would a person, but he did. So I threw him off of me, and he fell on the street. And I ran over to my dog. I scooped him up. I brought him back inside, and I came back out, and there was the other dog. Little beat up, but he was okay. And he was okay to the point where he came over and started licking my leg, and he was fine. So right there, the technique works, okay? And it works. I wouldn't suggest doing that to break up a dog fight. It can be very dangerous. He could have easily gotten loose and taken my whole face off, but it was just a instinctual reaction that I had, and it worked, thankfully. And both dogs came out of it okay. Just some, he had some stitches, and my dog had some cuts, but they're both fine. So that's my story, and that's what I think that officers should do to kind of help themselves. Now, if you guys agree, please like, share, subscribe. Let's get the messages out, and I'll be back later with more.